Meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, everyone. First item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Changes?
Mr. Chair, I just have to add item 7, Human Services. There's a contract. It got appended to the March 17th meeting instead of the February 17th meeting, so just one item to add.
Okay.
I'll move to approve, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, normally we would have public comment here, but if your public comment regards item number 6 on the agenda, we'll hold that till that agenda item, and then we'll do public comment then.
Well, I thought it was a different, it's totally regarding, mainly regarding preservation of a historical site, of a historical property.
Regarding this particular property in Lake George?
Yes.
Yeah, then I would hold that till the agenda item. This other stuff will go pretty fast, so you won't be here long. Otherwise, is there any other public comment besides the agenda item? All right, then on to consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to point out, I noticed that the 3 meetings that we have here under 3A for approval, and then the prior board meeting and work session for January all have Commissioner Kiernan as the board chair at the bottom of the paperwork on the, I know that you're signing all the paperwork for this year, but on the electronic copies it has Steve Kiernan. So I thought we should correct that. Otherwise, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. And
Any
Mr.
other
Chair,
discussion?
I added the January 20th in for approval just to show that it reflected the change in the vote on item 8
Oh, that Tom brought up?
that Tom brought up. And yes, it's a hard-coded issue, so I actually have to go to the company to have them change that, but I will, and then I'll reprint all of these for publication.
Thank you.
Good. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. We have employee recognition.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
For employee recognition today in the Attorney's Department, we have Catherine Leesburg, Office Administrator, is recognized for 25 years of service on February 12th. In the Sheriff's Department, Josh Oswald, Deputy Sheriff, is recognized for 15 years of service on February 14th. And also in the Sheriff's Department, Mandy Kwasnick, 911 telecommunicator, began the part-time position on February 10th.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
All right, and then Eric's up next with, or
No, Josh.
Josh is up, solid state, or waste.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, the item I have before you today is to review and approve quotes for a loader for the solid waste department. So we budgeted for a loader replacement at the South Transfer Station in 2026. This loader would be used primarily for outdoor activities such as working in our demolition area or concrete shingle area, pushing snow, brush and mulch piles, things like that. So we'd get quite a bit of use of that machine just outdoor at the transfer station in Park Rapids. We would plan to transition our 1994 cat loader up to our north transfer station. Currently, we don't have a payloader up there, so that will help with the operations up north. We did have this budgeted, like I mentioned, and would be coming out of our 391 and 392 account. And we received 3 quotes for the loader. One from RMS, one from CAT, and one from McCoy Construction. And all these loaders met the same specifications, included some buckets that we need for our operations, solid tires, and extra packages, just related to guarding and helping out with, running over all the material that we run over in the course of our operation. They were quoted under the state and Sourcewell contracts. And my recommendation is to approve the low quote from RMS for a Komatsu WA 328 machine for $281,913.90.
Do you have any need for scales, onboard scales in these loaders?
No. We kind of thought about that, but, we have our scale system at the transfer station, so.
And that's basically how you
Do
get
business,
items
yep.
in and items out, go by your
Yep.
platform scale. And what's your timeline for equipment replacements? You run it by hours or years or?
So typically I have that kind of outlined in our capital plans, so it really just depends on the piece of equipment. I think I had loaders probably depreciated over like 15 years, so a little bit longer depreciation.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And the one that's replacing was one hand-me-down, past hand-me-down from the highway department, so.
Does Ted will make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right,
Thank you, Josh.
thank you.
All right. Do we want to do human services first here? I think so. Quick. Morning, Michael.
Morning.
Morning.
We have in front of us today is just it's a new purchase of service contract with True Healthcare. It's a provider we haven't used in the past. Reason for the change here is we did have a provider set for this service, contract approved in December. First week of January, Caring Hands reached out to the county to let us know that they had to close their doors effective within a couple weeks. So we worked tirelessly to reach out to the providers. We got this provider on board, True Healthcare. Historically hadn't worked with medical assistance providers, although they could. They chose to do the private sector, but we reached out to them. They agreed to take on all the clients so that we wouldn't have any clients go without. And they actually stepped in and really made it seamless for those individuals that were going to lose their provider. So no change in rates. Rates still, purchases still come out of a grant that we receive for those that don't have medical assistance, and the other ones are just billed under MA. So.
Questions for Mike?
No, my only question was gonna be, did the rates change at all?
That was
And
my
you covered
question,
that, so. Right, I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, we need a motion to approve?
Steve just made it and I seconded.
Okay, sorry about that. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. All right, on to environmental services.
Morning.
We'll let Eric kind of give a rundown and then we'll have comment.
So I've got one agenda item for the board this morning, which is a preliminary plat application. It's located on the east side of Lake George, 96 acres and change, and the proposal would be to create 17 lots from the property. It formerly operated as a kids camp for many, many years and would now be redeveloped into residential lots. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the preliminary plat application with two conditions. The first is there is a small portion of the property along the lake on the north side of the lake shore that's abstract. property. The rest of the property is Torrens. It's registered as Torrens, and the ordinance does not allow abstract and Torrens to both be a part of a platted lot. So the applicants are in the process of going through the Torrens registration process for that abstract property, but it is not yet complete. So the Planning Commission recommended a condition that that must be registered before the final plat application is submitted. And the second condition that they recommended was that there are 2 septic tanks on the property that are not meeting the 10-foot setback from the proposed side lot lines on a couple locations between lots 2 and 3 and lots 4 and 5. And so they recommended that those tanks be required to be properly abandoned before the final plat application could be submitted. So those were their 2 recommended conditions, and they also asked at the hearing the question of what to do with some non-conforming structures that are located within the 100-foot ordinary high watermark setback. The sentiment of the commission was that if legally possible, they would like to require those structures to be removed before the plat is approved. I told them at that time that I had to consult with legal counsel to make sure that that would be possible, which I did, and counsel said that the board could place that as a condition on the preliminary plat approval if you wanted to. You would just want to make sure that you develop good written findings to support the nexus of that removal from the overall project and what it's looking to do as far as redevelopment. There's 2 roads that give access to the property. One runs on the west side, the other runs on the east. So the lots on the east side of the plat would be accessed through that township road, and the lots along the lake would be accessed through the other road that runs on the west side of the property, along with an extension of that road that would be a private outlot to the plat. And then the lots that are serviced by that private road would have undivided interest in it, and it would be their responsibility for keeping up construction and maintenance of that road going forward. If there's other questions that the commissioners might have, happy to.
Well, if Ken, I think we'll hold our questions for now and pull some public comment in. And I would remind you, we have the right to limit it to 3 minutes if we feel the need to. But there were some public comments made, one by email and then a couple at the Planning Commission meeting. So if you're going to state the same thing, there would be no need to. We've already read it. So if you have new information or something new to convey, we'd welcome you to come up and comment. Make sure you state your name and address and come up to that chair, please, and who wants to be first.
Good morning, Board. My name is Sue Jesse. I live at 36609 New Milan Drive in Lake George. I'm here with my husband and some concerned citizens and representing a lot of people that couldn't make it, asking for your consideration and help in preserving a historically significant and environmentally sensitive property on Lake George known as Camp Courage North. I recently wrote a letter to Hubbard County Parks and Recreation, and I believe you have copies, but I will summarize it here, it's long. Sadly, Courage North is facing a threat to its legacy. The property is in the process of a sale that could result in 17 subdivision lots. This property is a former estate of Minnesota inventor and humanitarian Walter H. Dubner and his wife Lydia. In 1912, they were grocers in St. Paul when they invented and received the patent for the handled shopping bag. You may laugh, but think of life without handles on your bags. This property is his inspirational story is one of success as well as philanthropy. The Dubners, known by locals for their kindness and generosity, donated their beloved property to the Minnesota Society for Crippled Children and Adults to provide an outdoor recreational opportunities and a respite for the disabled and burn victims. Courage North is now owned by True Friends and is being sold and proposed for development. Currently, the property comprises about 100 acres of beautiful mixed pine forest with 250 to 300-year-old trees. There are wetlands and lakeshore frontage. The site includes various structures formerly used by the camp, including several cabins, an 8,000-square-foot King building, a 125-person capacity dining hall, a chapel, a gazebo, a maintenance shop, and the original Dubner home. Concerned that this historic site and its beautiful pine forest and wetland habitat may be lost forever, along with the Dubner's wishes, some local citizens are trying to preserve its legacy. Why preserve it? There are several reasons. One, the historical and cultural significance to the Lake George and Hubbard County communities, as well as Minnesota. Number two, the natural history value of this unique property, its relatively undisturbed forest trails and lakeshore. Number three, educational opportunities for history, science, economics, celebrating the local history, and more. Number four, economic benefits to the community through increased tourism if developed into if preserved, sorry. Number five, natural park setting offers outdoor recreational opportunities utilizing trails and lakeshore. Number six, existing buildings and structures could be repurposed, but some of them, unfortunately, will have to be destroyed. Number seven, if this site is not preserved, it poses a great threat to the lake forest and wetland environment through development of septic systems, wells, driveway structures, etc., as has been mentioned as a concern in our Environmental Services Office report. A quick internet search of Walter Dubner will reveal the impact of his invention on the retail industry. And here it is, his patent, his shopping bag. And here's just a minimal example of what you can find on the internet. You're welcome to look at this if you would like to. The Minnesota Historical Society has his papers, photos, and artifacts in their collection. The Walter and Lydia Dubner Awards promoted innovation in retail and were given out yearly by the St. Paul Chamber of Commerce. Lydia is in the Minnesota Businesswomen's Hall of Fame. The Dubner example of thinking outside the bag, their philanthropy and selflessness should serve as an inspiration to all of us. A plaque on the property titled "Deep in the Pines" states, "These peaceful woods bordering on beautiful Lake George are dedicated by Walter H. Dubner and Lydia Dubner as an enduring memorial in humble acknowledgement of God's graciousness in permitting them to live long and useful lives. When their day is done, this land and its facilities shall be used in perpetuity by the Minnesota Society for Crippled Children and Adults for the purpose of continuing its Samaritan work among the persons for whom the society was founded." Many locals are confused as to how Camp Courage North is now being considered for development, thinking that the Dubners' wishes for their treasured estate would continue to be followed in perpetuity. Questions still remain. There is still hope that the Dubner property and its legacy can be preserved. The success of the county with Deep Lake Park and partnering with other entities to secure funds is an encouragement. I am writing this with the hope that by partnering with other organizations, the current owner of this property, True Friends, and with public support, we can together join and envision what this property could be in the future instead of looking back and regretting what we have lost forever. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment?
I sent an email, so I guess I can.
Yeah, if it's the same info, it's covered. Anyone else? All right, I get something. Yeah, name and address for the record.
Will Jesse, 36609 New Milan Drive, Lake George. I just have a couple issues that have concerned me since we got the initial letter here a few weeks back stating that this land was going to be developed. And this has been a treasure to the Lake George and the area since 1971, and prior to that when Dubners were alive. I just have concern why this wasn't brought up to the local people in Lake George, what was happening to this property and how it could be repurposed and redeveloped when it was set up to be a camp for crippled children. And Dubners put money in their estate to take care of this property in perpetuity. This has great value to the area, to the local people. And to me, it's just a great loss to have this go and be put into homes and subdivided with all the septics and all the issues that could bring, and all the wells and the driveways and the runoff, and it's a very sensitive property. Another thing, that this site is there as a memorial. In fact, Jacob's Cabin was built with money donated from burn victims, that the money received was donated to build Jacob's Cabin. So that cabin is there as a memorial, and the thought that that and everything else there be torn down just goes against the wishes of what this place was initially intended to be. And I just wish that the locals would have been made aware of this before it was the plot was being approved. It means a lot more to our community than it does to selling it and repurposing that beautiful land. You look around the lake, and that's the only piece of property left on the lake that's not developed. And it's a prize to the local area, plus all the wear and tear on the township roads this is going to create. So I just think we ought to think long and hard instead of rushing this through. Let's look at other opportunities, and let's just not move so fast. I mean, this is a treasured piece of land to the community. And I think we ought to think long and hard before we just wish it away. And it's the last nice property on Lake George where people can enjoy. And so let's just look at other opportunities than just make subdivision out of it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Sure.
So, as a community, you're stating that you value this property for its history, and I believe it's in the hands of True Friends now, correct? Have you, as a community group, reached out to True Friends and talked to them and try to find out, okay, can we take this and utilize it in a community sense manner rather than selling the property?
Would you like me to come up to the microphone?
If you would, yes, that way everybody can hear.
When I attended the last meeting, and when we found out what was happening with it, I did email True Friends. That was my first thing. I emailed True Friends asking if they would partner with me and with the community or with other organizations to research like grants and other opportunities for funding. I gave them my background. I'm a former teacher and interpretive naturalist at Itasca State Park. I was involved with building the current Jacob V. Brower Visitor Center there, helped with some of the displays and that sort of thing. And I put this in the letter. I just emailed on their contact information where you get the little box, and I wrote it in there and I sent it off. And I never heard anything back. And then more recently, I sent True Friends, John LeBlanc, the letter that I sent to you, that you saw. And then yesterday I emailed and said I'm presenting the letter to the board to ask them to join with us and with other organizations to at least consider preserving this property. And I was hoping that I'm hoping that we can get True Friends and work together to see if there's something else that can be done with this significant property. But I have not heard back from John LeBlanc.
Is True Friends the owner that had been operating the camp for a number of years?
True Friends, you would have to ask John LeBlanc when they took over, but I know Camp Courage from the cities originally had the camp, and then it was turned over to True Friends. I'm not exactly sure when that is. I also have a question about the Torrens process as to how this property was actually changed over into Torrens. None of us locally were aware of that. I understand that when that happens, people are given an opportunity to object or at least find out what's going on, but no one I talked to even knew what Torrens was. So I've had to research that, and the property that still is under consideration, I asked the county recorder what I could do, or how that works, or when it was put into Torrens, and she said something about in 2012, part of it, or it was put in Torrens, and there was a quick claim deed, True Friends to True Friends, or something. I don't know. Someone else with better understanding would have to. But that's questions that we as a community have. How does this property go from nonprofit serving as a camp? I mean, we all thought, we knew it was up for sale, but we thought, well, it'll still be a camp, because we just figured in perpetuity. So,
Going deeper than Steve's question, I think that's what's coming up in my mind is, number one, I don't believe the county probably even has authority over some of the things you're asking. Number one is, if the original estate said the property was going to be in perpetuity and it was sold to somebody else, that process could not have happened if that estate had had its documentation legally correct. So it opens up the question in my mind, was the estate done in a manner that protected it as they intended? And if it wasn't, we have no statutory power or authority to do anything about that when it's in somebody else's hands. They're just like you as a private citizen. They have a right to develop their property. The only thing we do have control over is we have an ordinance, so we can make sure it tries to fit the scope of the ordinance. So those are my initial concerns by the whole thing that you bring up, and I don't know if Eric knows any more details on that, or if that information is even in our purview. Because once it was sold, it's obviously there was no legal things there to prevent it from being sold. So the new person has the right to do what they deem with the property, protecting it as it was. That opportunity was probably gone the minute it's sold to a new person unless the new person intended to preserve the property.
Well,
I don't know what else to tell you folks about that, but that's just the way the market works.
well, we would like the opportunity to actually look into that. One of the concerned citizens that can't be here today because she's working has gone to the Minnesota Historical Society to search through his papers to see if she could find his will. And this should somehow all be in court records. But she said his will was not in there. There was nothing in there about how that was set up, how it was supposed to be dedicated to these people in perpetuity. And she tried, and I looked at, it would be in Ramsey County probably. Some of it should be in Hubbard County, I would think, but that's a question. You have that question, we have that question, and we just want to see.
That would be a matter for you guys to go through. You know, we have a legally bound purchaser that owns the property. That's not our purview to do. Our purview is to review what this property owner is bringing forward to the county under the ordinance we have. But you're free to go about doing that stuff as you see fit, but that wouldn't necessarily be in our purview to do.
Well, typically, this item would be for a local historical preservation office, but in this county, we don't have that, and maybe that's something that we should work for. But Minnesota state law is a little dubious, and I've contacted the Minnesota Historical Society and looked on their website, trying to find, can a county board work to preserve a property? And I've gotten different perspectives on that.
Good if you purchase it.
Some said that they do have the authority if it's historically significant to work, like to have it, they could buy, the county board could actually buy the property, or the county could buy the property, working with other entities.
I think we can't now.
Right.
Unless you had a willing seller.
Well, what I'm asking is that you consider alternatives, explore alternatives to what's happening.
So
I think you're asking us to do things, though, that we don't
I
have the authority.
understand. Right now,
Yeah.
you don't have the authority
Yeah.
to do that. You can't say, no, you can't do this.
What we do have authority to do is look at the application as it stands.
Exactly.
And determine whether it fits our ordinance or not, and put conditions based on the ordinance if we choose. That's what we have authority to do.
I
We
understand
do
that.
not have authority to nullify a sale or tell
Oh,
a
no,
developer
I'm
what
not
they can or
asking you
cannot. Yeah.
to nullify a sale.
That's why what I'm saying is I think that's in your guys' purview to explore that further. If you want to look at the legal things behind how the sale happened and all of that, if it was, there's anything there to what you're saying, but that's not in our wheelhouse.
nor can we delay,
We have a
Oh.
finite time.
we can't delay what the developer's gonna do when legally he owns the property, other than putting parameters around what our ordinance says. I've been looking up as you guys have been talking, so True Friends appears, I haven't read the mission statement about all this, but it appears that they had the same goals when they sold back when, but because they haven't responded to you, it would still be up to you to try to research somehow. But even if you research, you have to have a willing person to sell to
Exactly.
you.
I understand that if it's privately owned, I don't even believe it can be put on the National Register of Historic Places if it's privately owned. The owner has to agree to it. But there are opportunities for funding. Look at Deep Lake
Yes,
park.
But the horse is
But,
gone.
yeah, but we never owned it, or you, the sale has already gone forward.
Okay.
So you
Well,
have to work with the new property owners if you want to go down this avenue, because we don't take private property after something's been done. We don't have legally,
Well, that's
would
why
you
I
do that?
have reached out to True Friends, because they are the owners, and asking them to, with understanding True Friends' purpose also, working with us would help to make that property available to citizens who they have served and are serving. And
but what we're trying to say is, we appreciate your concern, but legally, we can't do anything about it. This is between you and True Friends and the new owner. We have no authority.
okay.
Eric, could we, so you wouldn't be processing an application if there hadn't already been a sale? Or would you be doing a preliminary plat as the sale is in process?
There's a signed purchase agreement, and we have a authorized agent form from the current owner allowing the applicants to apply, so that's what we require.
So that's, I'm sympathetic to your concerns, but
Well,
we can't do anything about what you want done.
Okay, well, I guess mainly, I know that it is also a threat. That is very sensitive lake shore that's never been developed. And the existing property, Courage North, had numerous issues of
Yes.
environmental issues with septics on the property. The former director, Tom Fogarty, said he doesn't understand how anybody can put 7 or 8 septic fields and driveways and wells and that kind of thing on that property because of known past issues.
Yes, and I don't mean to be short, but we're way above the comment period. And those issues are what is going to be discussed in this CUP process. Those are all issues that are being vetted through the Planning Commission and now through this board. So we are aware of those, and that's part of it. That's part of the ordinance process, is this requires a CUP, so we have to look and see, does it meet the requirements of our shoreline ordinance? If it meets the requirements of our shoreline ordinance, then the property owner has rights. If there's things that don't meet the requirements of our ordinance, we take a look at those, we weigh the pros and cons and the environmental impact in that, and we decide whether there needs to be a variance or whether we're gonna put some conditions on this CUP. That's what the process today, well, it started with the Planning Commission, and now it's here today, and it will go back to the Planning Commission again if we approve this preliminary plat. But we will be talking about those exact issues.
Okay, and may I just add that the plat looks good on paper. Our plat on our property looked good on paper. Our neighbors looked good on paper. Let's research how many properties have failed and septics have failed and had to be replaced or mitigated in some way where their mounds are like out in the woods somewhere. This has happened, and you can research that. And there is public comment where we can voice our concerns, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not asking you to do anything that you don't have the legal
Right.
ability to do. I'm just trying to ask for your understanding and recognizing this as a significant
We hear you.
property.
Yep.
I would like
And the
to add
concern.
that Eric's department does go out and view the property and make decisions accordingly to how our ordinance fits in with the land itself. And so we as a board have high regard and respect for Eric's department and the work that they have done. And so they have looked at things like septic systems and wetlands.
Yes, and I have respect for what they've done too, because they have been heavily involved on our side of the lake, on that area. And I do respect all of their work and efforts. I'm just saying, it often looks good on paper, but in reality, the water table changes. You have runoff. We're putting in 17 lots with wells and septics and driveways, and it's all gonna run off into the lake. Whether those septics are good or bad, whether, the driveway, all of the fertilizer and such runs off into the lake, the failing septics run into the lake, and Lake George is not that big.
There's been a septic evaluation done for every proposed lot by a licensed evaluator who does it for the county. I mean, he's contracted for the county, and he went out and checked every, two sites for every lot, 2 potential sites.
And what you're stating would be true for every lot that's ever developed in the county then. So that's why we have an ordinance. We use our best data, best information when we develop the ordinance. We constantly review it from time to time, and we try to do best practices to protect the environment and allow for economic growth and people to enjoy their property. So it's not always black and white. Usually it's never black and white. That's why we have a variance process. That's why we have a CUP process, because not everything fits into a nice cookie cutter mold.
Well, may I ask Eric a question?
Yeah, one more question, then.
Okay, I'm sorry, and I do appreciate your time. I appreciate it. Is Lake George in the Courage North side of the lake shore, that east side there, is that property more prone to septic failure than other areas in the county?
I don't think you can make that statement. There's so many variables that come into play.
Have there been significant number of septic failures on that side of the lake?
I would have to research more than this property is the only one that I'm somewhat familiar with. I don't have a knowledge at the moment as to what's going on with other properties on that side of the lake.
But you have spent a lot of time in the past working with Courage North in the mitigation of septic systems and issues.
There were failing systems that were identified on the property in the course of this project, and those have been taken care of by the applicants.
On
Chair,
paper.
I have
On paper.
I have one more comment. There is a different lake in Hubbard County, and there was a proposed campground to be put in. And the lake is not very large, nor is it very deep. And when I started talking with the DNR about the number of slips, et cetera, that was going to be offered, the DNR told me they don't take a stand as to how many lots are put on, or they wouldn't take a stand that the campground could possibly be detrimental to the lake. And so when I read through the paperwork that we have on this, and your concerns about putting the lots in, I believe that if you contacted the DNR and asked them, they would tell you that the lake is to be enjoyed by all, and that they would not take a stand that this development would be negative to the lake. So I was surprised when I approached the DNR about the campground on a different small lake, but that's the stand they took. And so another thing that we have to do as a board is we have to make sure whatever decisions we make are legal. So I couldn't use, in that instance, voting against the campground because I thought the lake itself was too small to possibly handle all that. I couldn't use that as a reason because the DNR didn't use it as a reason. And so part of it is we have to make sure whatever decision we make are legal, because why would we want to get sued by a decision that the courts would see as not being able to be backed up?
It's a recreational development lake, correct?
Yeah, maybe.
So anyhow, thank you for your comments, and appreciate the fact that you all showed up, and we certainly hear what you have to say and what you've sent in. So thank you.
But the environmental concerns are there. The septic failure issues are there, but
Thank you.
Got a comment?
that's why we have this forum.
Yeah, I'd like to just make one comment. You mentioned Deep Lake Park, and that maybe we can do the same thing with that, but we're juggling a capital improvement budget for a number of different things, and hopefully we'll get some for Deep Lake Park. And for myself, I'd like to see that park develop, and whatever money that we have available for it, go to developing Deep Lake Park so people can start enjoying and recreating there. And we're preserving that spot for people to use for generations to come.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody got any questions specific for Eric?
Yeah, I actually do. What happens when a septic system is abandoned? Do they actually dig out things, or do they just, I just need clarification, because I don't remember.
So it depends on what the issue is for causing the non-compliance. If it's drain field not meeting separation, they'll usually disconnect. It depends. If the tanks are still good, they'll reuse the tanks potentially and then put in a new drain field. In this case, with a lot of the systems that were non-compliant, it was due to drain field not meeting separation. So the applicants, as a good faith gesture, did get permits and modify those systems. So they disconnected the failing drain fields. The tanks were still compliant, and they converted the tanks to holding tanks for the time being. So they addressed the non-compliance issues out there. The systems are all now compliant, and they're ready for potential future buyers, if the plat is approved, to then be able to possibly have tanks that they could reuse in installing a new typical system that would also involve a drain field. But they didn't want to go to the step of putting drain fields in because they don't know how people are going to develop the lots, how many bedrooms they're going to have, et cetera.
Okay, then my second question is, I couldn't tell by the drawing, is the road gonna be up to county specs, or is it just gonna be up narrow private roads?
It will be the latter, so I don't know what the road construction will look like. The applicants are here, they could answer that if you wanted, but the ordinance with the private road option does not require that it be constructed or to any standard if it is constructed.
Okay.
So, in reviewing this last night quite extensively, it looks to me that, in reviewing the planning commission's work here, that it really comes down to the 6 non-conforming structures and whether we want the 6 non-conforming structures removed, and whether it's 6 or a number of those planning non-conforming structures removed. Would that then create a situation where the developers might want to look at an alternate plat? That's kind of the gist I got of this whole thing, and reading through it, and the biggest concern, everything else meets the requirement of the ordinance. So, outside of we see something particular that we don't like, we could ask for a change, but it would meet, outside of the non-conforming structures, it meets the requirement of the ordinance. So I think we need to focus on, do we want those non-conforming structures removed, or some of them removed, so that they become conforming, as I think one of the public comments from Cal mentioned, that this is our opportunity to help make our properties conforming.
I personally think that each lot, except for some of those non-lake ones, but the lake ones, each one is not big enough to have a guest cottage. So to me, the options for the developer is to, if they want to use one of those existing buildings as the dwelling unit for that lot, fine and dandy. If there's more than one, then they have to get rid of whatever extra ones there are. And then if a new owner buys it and doesn't like that one that they're using as a designated dwelling, then they can tear it down and build a new one and at the proper setbacks. That's my thought on those existing buildings.
Well, I remember when I was on the BOA board, and actually I think Tom and Ted, you were on this Eric, I don't remember what lake it was on, but there was a structure on there that people were using for guest cabin, and it was more than 700 square feet, which is one of these. But yet so they designated a guest cabin, but yet you couldn't go inside and physically look to see if they were using more than the 700 feet for the guest cabin portion. And I support Tom in that and Dave, I guess, we need to take care of that portion of it now, so it doesn't become an issue down the road with the new owners.
So you would be more inclined to have them removed as part of a condition on the CUP?
If there's more than one on the plot, have those other let them choose which ones they want to keep and the rest removed. And that would be the designated dwelling unit for that lot.
So you're saying leave one primary structure on a
One
lot?
Primary structure.
So are you proposing we could leave the chapel, the gazebo, and that platform and just?
Well, that would be a dwelling unit, the chapel and
No, the two cabins.
Yeah, so you're saying leave the other things alone?
just leave one dwelling unit if it has an existing building there. And it's, of course, make sure when a new owner comes in and wants to build something, that if that's the non-conforming, I mean, that you can only have one dwelling unit per lot.
The lots are compliant with the single-family lot size requirements, so they would be allowed to have a primary dwelling and a guest cottage on them.
Are they big enough for a guest cottage?
So you're basically talking the Jacob's cabin and the other cabin, correct? And you would say the other non-conforming structure should be removed, with the exception of maybe that deck. I think that, I don't know, that's debatable too.
Which cabin was it that was over 700 square feet without looking back up? Do you remember? Jacob's?
I think also Fort, the Fort one, I believe, was over 700 too. I went out there and,
Jacob's and Fort Lund.
yeah, I went to the Fort Lund. I did the lot view with the BOA. And I'm glad I did, because then I got to see what was going on there. I'll do the easy one, the deck. It's 8 feet, a corner of it is 8 feet over the line. I think if this was an individual person coming to us asking for a variance for that deck, I don't think I would have an issue with it. The Fort Lund, it's an old building. It's in disrepair. It is close to the shoreline. To me, I think the best thing, and like I say, this is my opinion, would be to tear that one down. There's also another structure. It's got vertical logs. I'm surprised it hasn't fallen over. That's one that could be gone. There was a gazebo. I didn't take a good look at that, to be honest. It wasn't close to where we had walked, in a sense. The chapel, it's one of those things I've seen from the lake before when I've been out fishing. It's kind of a landmark. I don't even think it has any footings or anything like that. It's a simple A-frame. That, there again, I don't have an issue with, but I also see that it could be something that could be easily moved. Jacob's cabin was rebuilt in 2010 by permit or variance, but it is over 700 square feet, and it is in the shore impact zone. I think that's the one I struggled with, and I think not to put words in the planning commission's mouth either, but I think that they were maybe struggling with that one too. As Tom said, if that could be the primary structure, but then you've got 3 other buildings that are back in the setback, legal conforming ones, but they're more or less bunkhouses. They don't have kitchens and they don't have restrooms and stuff like that. And there was talk about keeping Jacob's cabin as the primary, making one of these other ones, downsizing it so it could be, the interior could be less than 700 feet, and that could be a guest cabin, and then the other two could be repurposed as other structures or whatever type of a thing. That part seems kind of complicated. The other ones I thought were kind of cut and dried. We've got the two septic systems on each site. I think the difficulty where they talked about some of the property lines, I think that's where it was addressed, recommended to have the septic tank between lot 2 and 3. And I believe it was a septic tank between 4 and 5, perhaps abandoned. That way then that wouldn't be an issue. Otherwise, you know, as you've said before, what we're here today to do, there's these few things that I think should be cleaned up, but otherwise they meet the ordinance requirements. I understand the people's feelings about this. A few years ago, I met some of the people on New Milland on the south end. They were concerned with a driveway that was going to go across county land. I understand. I mean, this is your little slice of heaven right here on earth. For me, my little slice of heaven is a farm that my wife owns with her sisters. And many of you live here. This is also your home, not only that. So I understand your concerns, but I think with our ordinance, we have one of the strictest ordinances, shoreline ordinances in the state of Minnesota. And I feel confident that the work that our staff has done and the work that the developer, the purchaser have gone through, I think they've taken a lot of things into account to try to make this as easy a process as possible, if that's maybe the right word or not. And as has been said too, that as far as this being purchased and turned into something else, that could always happen before the lots get developed, but that's millions of dollars. And I know that at the county level, I mean, we get requests for funding all the time, and I don't see us being able to contribute much, if anything, towards something like that here on Lake George.
I think that's kind of where I'm at too, and it makes the most sense is you take those two cabins and the deck, and then the real question here is whether you want the developers to bear the cost of removing those properties as a condition of the CUP so that you can sell conforming property, they can sell conforming properties, or if you allow those two cabins and the deck to remain, and when they sell that lot to the new property owner, they're gonna be required to come in and potentially ask for a variance for either any of those items or anything new they permit anyhow. And I guess I would be fine with those three. The other things, I think, should be removed
I was looking
by
on,
the developer.
I was looking on page 113, the map there, and then it has in red letters, wrote in the square foot. I think the SF stands for square foot. And there's not a single one of them that's less than 700. That means for each lot, only one of those can be allowed as their primary residence, and then the other one cannot be a guest cottage.
So we all know what happens.
They
The
become.
lots are sold and then they come for variances, asking for more. That's just the way, and.
That's why we gotta clean it up right now.
Right, and Jacob's Cabin is not year-round, right?
It is.
It is year-round?
So what about moving it to one of the back lots?
Can I,
Yeah,
can I come up and comment?
sure.
Thank you. My name's Jeremy Donabauer, 80 Point Drive, Waconia, Minnesota, 55387. We're the potential purchasers of the property. I just want to go over a couple things really quick, and then I'll answer some more of the questions. But in the staff report on page 117, on the third paragraph, it says at the bottom, the two platforms, gazebo and boathouse, are not shown on the preliminary plat drawing. Those actually were shown, with the exception of the two platforms. They were not shown on the preliminary plat. I asked our survey why they weren't, and he surveyed this last March, and they were also covered under snow then. So we came into purchase of this property in February of last year, so we're on a year right now of trying to get this purchased. So that's why that was, oversight was there. So I just want it to be clear that we're not trying to hide anything and stick up for our surveyor here a little bit. And then one of the things that I would like to ask the board to consider is on the conditions that the planning commission sent forth. Condition number 1, this is on page 130. We would like to ask that the Torrance property before the final plat can be recorded. So instead of submitted for final plat, we'd like it to be that the Torrance is done prior to being recorded. That still protects the county 100%. It just allows us to submit our application about 8 weeks earlier than it would in order to get this Torrance process done. The Torrance is in works right now. We're hoping to have it done by March, April at the latest, but we don't want to get held up by that. So I would ask the board to consider that. And then as far as the buildings go, I'm here to answer any questions that pertaining to the buildings. I would say that it puts the camp in a really precarious position if they start tearing buildings down prior to getting a final plat recorded. If Kenny and I happen to get hit by a bus 2 weeks before the plat gets recorded and the buildings get tore down, now the buildings are gone. So I would ask the board even to consider a financial arrangement with us where we would do a 1.5 times cost of tearing that down. And then once it's tore down after the final plat is recorded, then those funds get released back to us, similar to a bonding of a township road. We do have a bid from the contractor that's done all the work out there already. So that's also a possibility.
So are you saying you wouldn't have any problems tearing all 6 non-conforming structures down?
If that's, the planning commission already was pretty clear on what they wanted. The platforms and the gazebo, they're minor, but we can easily, take care of those. The boathouse is, like Commissioner Van Kemp said, it's one hard kick and that thing's gone. The deck is a little bit frustrating, I guess, because it is only 8 feet over the line and it was done with a permit. But we are okay with tearing everything down.
And that nicer cabin, would you be inclined to tear it down or move it?
That's Jacob's cabin on lot 2. We would consider trying to move it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the interior of Jacob's cabin? Can you give me a layout?
Sure. You walk in, there's the kitchen as you walk in, and then there's 2 bedrooms on either side of the cabin. And then kind of through the center of the cabin, there's kind of a living area, and then it kind of walks out to the back. Deck, I don't know, there's not really a deck, but it is year round and the heat is on all winter, so.
Electric heat then?
I think so, yeah.
Because it's just on a foundation.
Yep, it's on block, yep.
So how would that work, Eric, if we had a provision of the CUP to remove the structures, the non-conforming structures, and with a kind of bonding idea, he said, would that be workable thing? It would have to be a condition of the CUP that, within X amount of time, these structures are removed.
Well, we don't have just to clarify, we don't have a conditional use permit component to this. It's just a plat application.
Okay.
So you could develop that as a condition, and then if you're open to what Jeremy is asking for as far as financial commitment to ensure that he takes care of removing those structures by a certain date. That's something that we'd certainly want to have legal counsel draft and bring back to the board for review and approval, I would think. Another thing to clarify in regard to like the 3 structures that have been discussed on Lot 2 that meet the setback, those are basically bunk rooms with beds, and I believe there is a bathroom in each of those structures, so they're just lacking kitchens to make them fully functional as standalone dwellings. The ordinance would allow a 700 square foot portion of those structures to be permitted as a guest cottage, and then the balance of the structure would have to be in some other non-dwelling use, but that is an option for any potential buyer of that lot.
What's the board's wishes here?
So you're willing to tear them down with this stipulation that we get legal counsel to write it up to where you can go forward with it?
Yeah, yeah, of course, we'd never dream that we'd have to tear Jacobs down, but that's the way the variance went, and I don't think we have a choice besides, telling a potential buyer that it's there, but you can't really do anything with it. So to us, the buildings don't provide a lot of value anymore out there.
That's why I kind of brought up the fact that, if you wanted to preserve that cabin, you could maybe move it to one of the back lots, and then at least whoever purchases the lot can decide whether they want to keep it or not. It doesn't become much of an ordinance problem then.
Yeah, we are definitely considering that. It's just until we hit springtime, I don't know what we're really gonna have. So tearing the buildings down is, yes. I also would like, I hate to touch back on the Torrens thing, but it would be great to have that condition say Torrens is completed prior to recording instead of prior to application.
See a problem with that, Eric, at all? Potential?
No, the only thing is they could potentially run into, if the Torrens process is delayed, the fact that the subdivision ordinance requires the plat to be recorded within 30 days of when the county board approves the final plat. Otherwise, it becomes void, so that's the only time thing that could become an issue. But if you would approve the prelim today, they could then next get the final plat application submitted for placement on the March Planning Commission meeting agenda, which would bring the final plat application to the county board at the second April meeting. So, you're looking at mid-May before that 30-day period after the plat is approved would come into play for recording. And
Yeah, and I think our thinking is that we would be actually submitting for prior to the March submittal deadline and getting on the April Planning Commission meeting. Just with the way the Torrens looks like it's tracking right now.
I have one question on the Torrens. So the end result is that each lot will have its own Torrens certificate then, which actually it's a much cleaner way to transfer property. You don't have to go through the whole abstract process again, because when they torrent the property, it is one final court-ordered abstract, which is actually a much cleaner way to have property listed.
Yeah, it's like the Cadillac of title.
Yep.
Yep.
I have a question on the deck. So just so I understand it correctly, you as the investor could not apply for the variance?
they did request a
Oh, yeah,
variance
that's
on
right,
the deck.
prior, and it was turned down.
Correct.
Yeah, so now really the only solution is to tear it off.
Or the other option is they could remove the portion of the deck that's within the setback.
Yeah.
And that's one, I think, the planning commission, instead of just approving the deck, they thought it would be easier just to deny everything. And I don't think they had an issue with the deck either, but.
So when you were looking at the property, I am struggling a little bit with the deck, because it was permitted.
Well, the question then, you know, because they came for a variance asking for all 6 things, if they came back just asking for the deck, do you think the or the Board of Adjustment would be more likely to say, okay?
Well, just to clarify for the board, the variance involved Jacob's Cabin, Fort Lund, and the deck. They didn't include the other 3 non-conforming structures. The Board of Adjustment denied the application on all 3, and the shoreland ordinance has a provision that says the same application cannot be submitted for a year from when the first was denied, so that the board doesn't have to deal with people, you know,
So unfortunately, it sounds like either have to
Applying and
remove 8
applying.
feet or the whole deck, and whoever purchases this property would have to come and ask for a variance to build a deck again.
Yeah, and I think that one, we feel like we can just clip 8 feet of the deck off. The deck is pretty large, so we're gonna need one more post and a clipping a,
Okay,
you know,
It makes it
okay, so you're gonna end up keeping the deck and just,
yeah.
okay.
conforming.
Okay.
What's the board's wishes? I think the way I'm hearing it is, you know, we kind of want to follow the planning commission's recommendation and basically recommend that all the non-conforming properties either be removed or brought into compliance. Or moved, you know, either way.
How to word it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Same
and
thing. If they're moved, they'll be in compliance.
I don't have a problem with you guys working with Eric for the financial aspect that you wanted, as long as legal says we can do that.
And, you know, the Torrance thing, I guess if we don't see any issue with it, you know, I'm a little nervous, because what happens if during that process something goes away, or, I don't know. I don't know much about that. That's not my area of expertise, so.
Yeah, with the Torrens, you know, the protection of the county is we can't record the plat until the Torrens is done. So we come to Eric with a certificate from the recorder that says, or it's actually from the court that says the Torrens is done. And then we get the green light for the board chair to sign our plat. So the protection is definitely still there.
You can do
So.
things concurrently then.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
I guess I'll make the motion to approve the preliminary plat with the 2 conditions that the planning commission had added on there. As far as the Torrens, the number 1 condition that the planning commission had, the Torrens registration process. I know that sometimes can take a while, especially if the person that does that isn't in the country at the time. So it could, I would like to see how, I don't know how to word that though. And that's where I would like to have some help on that one as far as wording. The 2 existing septic tanks proposed on boundary lines 2 and 3, and between 4 and 5 be abandoned. So that's number 2. And I guess the 3rd condition would be to remove the non-conforming structures within the shoreline management, or the high water, the setback.
Remove or bring into compliance, because if
Yes.
they want to move that cabin, they.
Yeah, good point. Remove or to bring into compliance. And I'm not sure, like I say, I don't know how to word the Torrens application.
Last 3 words, I think, is the only thing that needs to change.
And then Eric, as part of the motion, do we need to say anything about what the investor wants to do financially with removing the, you know, for,
So on a timeline, and do you want,
yeah,
some type of like bonding situation where you know it's gonna be covered?
yeah. And thinking about the HRA EDA board, the timeline is and we give them a year.
Yep. You wanna add that, Ted?
Sure.
Do you wanna do the bonding part of the thing, what you say, 1.5 times expected cost?
Yeah, and then it gets into, do you want how do you want that cost determined? Do you want that just based on the estimate that the applicants obtained? Do you want the county to go out and solicit bids? As you want to make sure that that's going to cover the cost in case the county has to go out and
Well, I have a
remove the
question.
structures.
Do we need to do the bonding thing at all if we put the time limit of 1 year?
Well, the issue is the plat application is going to be complete as far as final approval. So you're going to want some kind of a legal agreement that they're bound to. So if the time passes and the work doesn't get done, then the county has it all laid out of how you can obtain those funds to then hire your own contractor to go remove those structures.
I think it'd probably be safer if we got the bid, you know. I don't know how long that would take, but
Do you want to take that much time or put that much effort in? Is the purchaser's estimate reasonable?
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'll just tell you the estimate we have from Shepherd Excavating is $31,900. So, you know, we're probably talking 47,000 for the 1.5 times. We're not against somebody else taking a look. Maybe it'll be a little cheaper for us. I don't know. But
I think as far as that, for a bond figure, to me seems reasonable, because what did we spend to have the lodge at Deep Lake Park tore down?
Well, it was significantly more, but it was a
Yeah.
significantly bigger project.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of saying.
This number seems reasonable.
Yeah, I want to say it was like around $100,000, but that was the amphitheater and the lodge and,
It's closer to 3.
Yeah,
okay,
285, I believe.
oh, okay. It's still, like I said, 46 is reasonable.
yeah, I guess I'm okay either way, so. It's your motion, so if you wanna add that
Okay, I'll add to that.
a year to remove and 1.5 times performance standard on removing the buildings based on the quote received.
Yeah, and you're hoping to have these up for sale this summer? So do we need a year? I mean, would 6 months be good, or?
6 months is fine.
I only picked a year because that's the HRA ADA supposedly policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got all that? Do we have a second?
So did you, wait, so you're putting 6 months, not a year?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
6 months and 1.5 times their estimated cost there that they just showed us.
Okay.
Second.
And I assume, wait on, do we have to adopt the findings or anything from
No, my question would be,
System Plat?
as far as how's the Torrens condition tweaked, you're okay with that, with the final plat application being able to be submitted before that Torrens process is complete, but it has to be complete before the final plat can be recorded?
Yes.
Is that correct?
So the purchaser is the one at risk here if the timeline is a problem. Just want to clarify that based on Eric's comments.
So just curious, if for some reason the Torrens didn't get completed in that amount of time, Eric, is there a limit then? They would have to wait a year before they would bring this back for a final approval?
No, there's nothing of that sort. They might potentially have to go through the process again. The
Okay.
ordinance does allow an applicant to approach the board before the 30-day window is up
Yeah,
for
that's
recording,
right,
to
yeah.
ask for an extension of time if circumstances warrant it, and then the board could review that and decide if you wanted to grant more time if, they run into some unforeseen slowdown in the Torrens process.
Having converted some property to Torrens, there's potential for it to get hung up for a little bit.
Okay.
Anything else? I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Again, everybody, thank you for your comments. All right, we are on to Human Services we did, so on to the administrative report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only thing that I would have is to update you that I expect to have signed contracts for a majority of our unions at our next meeting. I'd hoped to have some for today, and I didn't get any signatures for today, so.
I was gonna ask you how it was coming, so.
We've got 2 weeks before I would have to bring those back on the 3rd of March, so I expect that we would have several, if not all of them, on that same date.
Thank you.
And that is, I think, all I have, unless you have questions.
Anything else? You have your assistant hired, right?
Yeah, Jamie will be starting on Monday.
Excellent. That's good news.
Do you wanna, in light of, you know, you don't have someone on staff, should we register ourselves for the leadership summit or give you our names?
Oh, no, I'd be perfectly happy to register anybody who wants to do that. It's actually easier to do it as a group. So if people are interested in doing that, I think this is one that fills up, so we should sign up quicker.
I would like to go and I'm not staying over.
Is that the one in Brainerd?
Yeah, this one.
I don't plan on going this year.
March 25th to the 27th.
I went last year.
I'm gone.
Personally, I see myself as a public servant, not a leader.
Well, public servants are leaders.
I don't remember who the speaker is. We got a deal on it.
I can bring it up, but what I will do is I will forward that to everybody, and just please respond one at a time to that email, and then I'll register us as a group for those who are going.
And just to note, it ends on the 27th and the land auction is at 1 o'clock on the 27th.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Committee reports. Meeny, miny, mo. Start over there.
I can start with me. I had one, public safety and transportation. And I can't remember what happened there. That was over 2 weeks ago here. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Josh brought up the potential to moving the recycling stuff to a different, I don't know if I want to show this or not, because then does it become public record? So he's looking at a fabric building and repurposing some of the buildings out there. As I recall, that took the bulk of the conversation. I'm thinking that and I don't remember why we switched from the old recycling center building to where he's at now, but I'm sure when Josh gets that closer to realization, he'll be bringing it forward to the board. And Steve, you were there, what am I missing?
I was just utilizing space better, the traffic flow would be better, reconfiguring how everything moves through there. And the reuse center right now, I think he feels it's a little too small for the volume that's coming through there.
Even if it's added onto?
Well, you can't add on to the one that's what it's up on the hill.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, never mind. Yep.
So he was looking at moving that and then trying to find different options for storage for things. And then transferring of items was the biggest thing. I don't know if there's ever really a good plan. I mean, we have a limited footprint there. Not a lot of options to work with, so he's trying to work with everything that's available as far as land goes.
I know exiting with trucks was a discussion too, especially if a roundabout goes in. I think that's about all I got.
My turn? I had several. I had two with the library. First one was the local library board meeting. Jody gave a summary of 2025, maybe just some stats. They had 25,178 visitors, 50,157 checkouts. let's see, 3,500 attended 112 kid programs. 783 volunteers gave 1,348 hours. And they had 495 new library card applications. So they've been pretty busy there. The second library meeting was just last week. Friday it was, yeah, it was a special meeting that had called with the board because Melissa, the executive director, is going to be off on family paid leave for extended period. So we had to go and to contract with an interim director. There's too much going on there to leave it without that. So we did that.
Did you use somebody on staff, or did you?
Actually, the one we contracted, and well, we're still in the process of drawing up the contract, which she agreed to taking the position, is her name is Melissa Becken, and she's the one who was interim in between when Melissa started and the previous one.
Okay.
So she's been there before, and she's actually contracts with libraries all over the place for things like this.
Okay.
Her resume shows a number of interim director positions. And then the other one was, the mental health board, the local advisory council. The other thing I wanted to mention there was, when they have, on the agenda is always unmet needs. And one that popped up last month and now again this month was, it doesn't sound like that northern dental care is quite meeting what the needs that it was supposed to meet.
Really?
Because-
What's happening?
Well, they said there's, the main issue is this long, very long wait times to get an appointment.
Well, I know they're double booking because so many people don't show up.
I know,
That's all I know.
I know with myself too, though, I called a couple of weeks ago with my dentist, and I can't get in till March 4th. So I don't know if that's how that compares, but so I think it was like 6 weeks away from when I called.
Well, they're talking like 6 months away.
Oh, wow, that's.
Yeah, it's a long ways off.
That's what it is.
But so I would question further, I'm wondering if there's so many people trying to get in?
It could be. I know when I was at my dentist, there's one person who went in there and asked if they can get an appointment, and they said, well, show me, you gotta show your insurance card, and it says, well, we don't take this one, you can go to Northern Dental down the road there.
Okay.
So,
Anything else?
nope, had to do it.
I didn't have anything.
Nothing good?
I had Action Park Rapids, and we all write a synopsis at the end, and then she emails it out, so I didn't take any notes, and I don't have the email yet, so.
All right, and I had extension and just a bit of a note. That pollinator series had 1,700 people.
Wow.
That last year. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah,
Was it taught by Tara?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's, and a good portion are local, and then, she was gonna get me the numbers because, so I think it was like around 50 local, but then there were a whole bunch of summer residents that live on the lake in Hubbard County that partake too, so I asked her, well, give me that number too, cause they count. I would count them as local, but yeah, quite a few. Amazing. Popular stuff. And all of her programs that she's doing just keep growing. So, people are using it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good deal.
Yeah. And that's basically all I had. I had a visioning meeting, community visioning meeting, and that went okay. We'll see where that ends up going. It was the first or second one only, so not much progress made.
A comment, I got an email and copied Jeff on it from AMC, from Jessica Siebert. And I'd like to introduce myself as Manager of Learning and Member Programs for AMC. You may have read the article in the last AMC magazine entitled Main Conversations, Voice of Local Leadership. The goal of this series is to highlight rural urban commissioners from across the state and issues that connect us. And so then she would like us to participate, and it has to do with housing in our area, questions of housing. So are the I replied that we would do this. I would like to defer actually to Mary to answer the questions on housing. That'd be okay with the commissioners? Okay,
She's the one with the background.
that's what I thought, and, yeah.
I know that she's looking for data. She's also looking for a board opinion on that, which is why I suggested that Commissioner Christensen be the person that she reach out to.
Okay,
So I think that it's fair to ask Mary or myself to fill in some details, but she's really looking for a board perspective on this. So anyway, have that initial conversation with her,
okay,
and then you'll get a list of things that you need us to fill in the.
okay,
Dashes
I
for-
appreciate the
When she asked me,
clarification.
yeah, when she asked me that, I think she made it more clear that she was looking for a board perspective.
Okay, all right, I'll email her, thank you.
One other thing, Jeff, you guys got that email I sent from the Wanawak?
Yes,
Oh,
Eric has made contact and is working, or is going to make contact and working on it.
sounds great, thanks.
That could be challenging.
All right, anything else?
Who's gonna be at the managers meeting?
Managers meeting.
I was at the last one.
Guess I'm at all of them now, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's my turn, because Steve was probably there in December.
Oh, I was there
Yeah,
in
I
December.
was.
Yeah, I was in December. But I was supposed to be November, but I took December, yeah.
And Shar was just there, so I'm thinking it's me. Answered my own question.
Well, that's the question I was gonna ask.
Otherwise, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Where's Derek going?